Tourism is one of the world's most important industries. Many countries, developed and developing, have been making a lot of revenue, creating a lot of jobs and opportunities to the tourism industry. How is Africa faring in this industry? How can we make it better? For the records, in 2017 alone, the US made about 1.6 trillion from tourism. Our own Scotland made 12 billion, and that's just in 2015, creating 217,000 jobs. Nigeria, $1 billion, 2019. South Africa, $45 billion, 2017. On and on like that. We have had the COVID-19 pandemic, which is still here. The tourism industry has suffered a lot. How can the African continent leverage on the opportunities there to make tourism an important contributor to the GDP of Africa? This is what we'll be discussing today on the program. And I am your host, Lion Olushokumbi. Welcome to the Nigerian Pride. Today, the 8th of April, 2021. I'd like to quickly say apologies for her starting late, and that's just because we're trying to make sure that the technical setup is cool and fine. And we have our guest here. Without wasting any much time, I'll be inviting our guest over as we do to introduce himself and we kick off the show. Welcome, everybody. Hello.
Hi, Oluwole. Good evening. Greetings from Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa.
Can you just say that again? I think the mic was a bit down earlier. Just reintroduce yourself again, sir.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Pelu Awofeso, joining you on this live stream from Lagos, southwestern Nigeria, and in the sub-region West Africa of the African continent.
Wow. You can see the
It's
way.
great to be. It's good to be on the program with you, Oluwole.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Well, you can see the way he introduced himself, like giving us the exact location from every bit of it so that if you're using your atlas, you can find the place quickly. So, just for
Comfortably, yeah.
just for many of you who are listening, I will just tell you a bit more about him. Yes, you know his name already. He's Pelu Awofeso. He's a winner of the CNN Multi Choice African Journalist Award in Tourism reporting. He has also won an award for the best travel journalist in Nigeria. He's a researcher, a content creator. He teaches social media and related subjects at Journalism Clinic in Lagos. He's an environmentalist. At least that I also know of him. He's an environmentalist because I've seen him do some uh, environmental work through all of the coastal lines we have in Lagos, with other youths moving with him whenever he's out there. And he has written different articles in journals in the US, in Africa. He's also written in World Daily Mirror of the UK, Policy Journal of the US, African Today UK, African in Words UK, Logel Canada, 234 Next, and many other things. He's also a publisher, just to add to that. So, welcome,
That,
sir. Welcome
thank you.
today.
That's a lot for someone to have achieved.
And it's still going on. The achievements are still going on. We've not
it,
stopped.
it it doesn't stop. We have to keep on moving
Yeah.
in the
Well,
service of God and country.
yes. I know. I have known you now for more than a decade. I remember it was when I was doing my master's then I had to contact you that we wanted to showcase your masquerade
Okay.
at Glasgow Caledonia University. And I remember Treasure Duro Dollar linking me up with you then.
Okay.
But yeah. So since then, I've known you are into this tourism. But I want to ask, what is tourism?
Well, different people define tourism differently. When I was starting out a couple of many years ago, the basic definition of tourism that I came across, which still applies today, is the process of people traveling from one place to another and then staying in that destination for not less than 24 hours. So if you were to travel, even within your country, to travel from one state or from one region to another, and you sleep over and spend 24 hours in that new place, you've basically done tourism. So when people think about tourism, it doesn't have to be a long flight. It doesn't have to be a long train ride. It doesn't have to involve spending too much money. It's basically a simple travel from one place to the other, spending 24 hours or more in that new location before you get back to base. That is a basic definition of tourism. Of course, we can begin to look at tourism in some other respects. We can look at the various forms of tourism. We can look at the economic aspect of tourism. We can look at the implications of tourism or non-tourism or over-tourism or under-tourism. We can look, but I've given you the basic reasoning behind tourism. Purely traveling for a short period of time of not less than 24 hours.
Right. Okay.
For business, for leisure, for whatever reason. It could even be for your wedding, for a party. So long as you've moved from where you live to a different place, you've done tourism.
Okay. Good. So that means tourism actually happens virtually every day. Eh,
Virtually every day, yes. We do it without even thinking that is what we're doing.
Right.
You
Right.
go for an interview, you go for a dedication, you go for a worship service, you go for pretty much anything, and then you are doing an overnight thing over there, maybe like well, I mean, for Christians, you do what is called
Videos.
the videos and stuff. So long as it keeps you, it could be for even it could be a pilgrimage, it could be a camp meeting, it could be anything, it could be in the same state, but moving from wherever it is you are to a local government and staying there for a day or two, you've done tourism.
Oh,
And it's
good.
unfortunately what Nigeria as a country has refused to understand because all of this tourism activity happen, but we are not taking records. We are not having data to show how people are moving from one region to the other, how much money is being spent when 1 million people move around Lagos, 75 million people move around Nigeria. That's a lot of money being spent. It's adding to the economy, but we are not taking any adequate daily records of such things.
Hmm. Okay. I think you've started it well there. You've started kicking into the things I was going to be asking. And
I'm so sorry. I'm going too
oh, no,
fast.
no, that's a good one. At least you're keeping us to be proactive as well. So
you know.
bringing it into the economic context. And I quoted some things earlier there, but I would like to look at Scotland. And why
All
I
right.
mentioned Scotland, one, we are in Scotland. I'm presently in Scotland.
Okay.
Uh, Two, the record Scotland have recorded over time in terms of tourism has been staggering when it comes to revenue and job creation. For 2015 alone, 217 jobs were created. That was in 2015. And that represented 8.5 employment in Scotland, raising a travel tourism fund of 12 billion pounds. That's only Scotland out of the
Hmm.
four home nations of UK. So I've not even talked about the whole of UK.
Yeah.
Now, I know the population of Lagos is four times because Scotland we're only about 5.6 million people.
Wow.
Aha.
Wow.
So that's starting
Yeah.
with
Essentially, Lagos is 5 times more populated than Scotland.
okay.
Lagos is now about 25 million.
Okay, good. See, so we started it with that. Now I know Ghana. If I look, I don't. I'm trying to check my records well. The population of Ghana, I'm sure, would just be a bit more than that of Lagos.
Yeah. At some point, it was 22 million. I'm not sure of the current figures now.
Uh, Like so, and if we go to the East African countries, the South African countries, We see how, how tourism is making great things happen. In West Africa, we can talk about Gambia as well.
Sure.
Now, where I want us to start is this. You've mentioned about the fact that, okay, in Nigeria in particular, there is no record being kept. Is this a problem that is popular with almost the whole of Africa, or is it just with a few African countries?
Oh wow, it's not. I mean, how do I begin? The thing is, some countries on the continent have been wise enough to the whole economic advantage of tourism, and they've taken the right steps to ensure that they collect and gather and use data. Some countries from say 40, 50 years ago, some 30, 20 years ago, they realized the importance of tourism and how it can benefit their society, and they began to take proactive steps. In the last 10 years, right? I was using that particular window because in the last 10 years, I have seen many African countries push forcefully into Nigeria. And because they have data, they understand that Nigerians love to travel. They understand that Nigerians have specific things that they are interested in. They understand that Nigerians have money to spend. We love to travel. And so having this, and they must have a lot more data that I can't even mention right now. At different times in the past 10 years, they came massively into the country and they were promoting their country's tourism to Nigerians. This is not the UK I'm talking about. This is not the US. This is not any country in Europe. They are African countries. And now let me begin with one of them. One is South Africa. There was also Rwanda. There was the Gambia that you mentioned. There has been Ghana. There was Zimbabwe at some point, maybe not as strong enough. To these countries understand that Nigerians are, Nigeria is where the market is, and they came all the way to promote their countries. If they didn't have data, they wouldn't see Nigeria as, in a sense, cash cows who could actually, improve their economy. At some point, Republic of Benin was also getting a number of Nigerians on tour. Just before the pandemic struck, Cape Verde was the latest. Okay, and before Cape Verde, there was Namibia. Namibia actually started an airline. They launched a direct air flight between Nigeria and the capital just because they wanted to mine that data, that asset called Nigeria. And they did that. Unfortunately, something happened along the way and they had to discontinue. After that, Cape Verde came. Cape Verde came late 2019 and began to massively promote in Nigeria. At the end of the lockdown period last year, Gambia came back forcefully to Nigeria to come and say, you know what, we're here before, we need to return, because they understand the value that Nigeria brings to their country's tourism. That explains to you the value of data. In our dear country, Nigeria, we are not keeping data. We are not making any attempts to bring other people from across the continent into Nigeria. It's unfortunate because 54 countries on the continent, a billion people population. We should also, be reaching out and encouraging other Africans to come into the country, to come spend money, to come stay, to come and appreciate our cultural, historical, environmental assets, our natural heritage. We need to also let the rest of the world see that. They see too much of negatives. Nigeria is not the worst country in the world. It's not the worst country on the continent. There are a couple of countries with statistics, when we talk about kidnapping, when we talk about rape, when we talk about all sorts of negative crimes, or all sorts of crimes. The indices from the world body, from the United Nations, from all the renowned international institutions, Nigeria does not rank first, second, third, fourth, or fifth, or even 10th. We rank way behind so many other countries. So why are we not using what we have to our own advantage? It is the problem of data. It is the problem of understanding what position we occupy in the scheme of things, and then leveraging that to make our economy better. or to make our economy benefit from such trends.
Okay, now I'm going to just from everything you said there because I just saw the figure made by Ghana alone in 2019 for tourism alone was 1.9 billion dollars, which is nine that's 900 million more than Nigeria's revenue for that year. Question I want to ask is, yes, you've told us the challenge there that okay for Nigeria the data is not kept. And we know that will be the same for some other countries. But however, you've also
Yeah.
mentioned countries who have tapped into the opportunity,
Mhm,
Nigeria being that ready market for any product or services at all. As long
mhm.
as you package it well, they will take it. Now,
Sure.
how can how can the Nigerian government itself start creating good data to promote tourism in Nigeria and even to Nigerians?
Hmm. So the thing is, in a sense, the federal government institutions are actually trying to collect data. They collect it. For example, at the point of entry at the airport, you see the immigration officials taking all of those forms that you fill before you come into, just like it happens everywhere else in the world. But the unfortunate thing is that from the information that we gathered over time, we collect those things, but we don't make any use of them. You get it? When we travel on a day-to-day basis by road in Nigeria, you know, we see that the buses keep what is called a manifest. We write our names and stuff in the manifest. Nothing at the end of the day is done with that manifest. You get it? The same applies across the board for whatever transportation we are taking. The boat, I don't even think they even take any manifest. Okay, they do. They've introduced that in the boat. But the problem is that at the end of the day, when all the data has been collected, it's dumped somewhere and nobody makes any recourse to that information. Even if you were to go and approach and say, you're a researcher, you're trying to do this and document and see the pattern of travel in the country, which nationals are visiting Nigeria the most, which ones do we need to be focusing on and be, you will not even be able to get access to to that information because they will think, what do you want to do with it? It belongs to the federal government. It is our lack of appreciation for what data can do, especially in the digital age, in the 21st century, that is hampering so many of the policy decisions that is taken in the federal, state levels of administration. So it is the only thing that I think government needs to do is to take the data they collect more seriously. There are ministries. There is the National Bureau of Statistics. I'm thinking that a place like that is where most of the data should go. They are the ones who are trying to understand what is going on at the moment, and they're trying to give us a breakdown of what is happening in society. Government could actually say they want to create a new agency, a new organization, a new organ to begin to mine the data that we have. Right now, I can tell you we still collect mostly analog data. Most of what is being done is not computerized yet. We shouldn't be doing that in this day and age. And there are so many smart Nigerians who are knowledgeable, who are gifted in these things, who can actually give us a very you know, seamless, what would I call it, program that can help us, generate this data in a more straightforward fashion, and then we can also, study them and make interpretations and make projections, based on those computerized data gathering systems. So the government is doing it in a sense. It's just that it's not going all the way to use some of the information that it is getting, you know, for for economic planning, if I can use that phrase.
Yeah. So listening to everything you were saying there, it's a lot. It's a lot you've identified there as the challenge. And whilst you were talking, I just tried to have a look on the Nigerian High Commission website here in the UK, and I see that yes, we have the culture and tourism. And if you look there, you'll be like, oh, so lovely things written about Nigeria.
Nigeria is lovely.
So many lovely things.
Nigeria is lovely, so we can't even take that away from our country. We are very lovely. So let me, lovely country. We all know it.
Yeah, we know that, but it comes down to how are we effectively making use of all these things we have to take
Mm-hmm.
care of our problems. Now, I know there's a problem of insecurity. We have poverty. We have the issue of even how do we conserve the wildlife we have? Because I know at least we still have our Yankari game reserve there. We still have the Obudu Ranch.
Yeah, we
Yes,
have the Old Oyo National Park, we have the Okomu National Park, we have the Gashaka Gumti National Park,
yeah.
we
Now,
have the we have so many.
yeah. Now, all those parks, in fact, the Oyo one you mentioned,
Yeah.
think I recently saw the picture of it. It was one of the, I think maybe one of the staff of the federal government. I'm not going to mention her name, but I'm a friend on Facebook. She posted a picture of it. And
Okay.
when I saw that signboard, I was like, what? This signboard is still the same one there. The last time I was there, I was 6 years old. And it's still the same signboard six from when I was 6 years old. I was like, oh my God. And that resonate, the issue you're talking about, this data keeping. Now, who should we put this blame on? Who should we be talking to make things move? Because the Bureau for Statistics, whether we like it or not, they come up with their yearly or quarterly handbook thing they release. But the Ministry of Tourism, should we be talking to the professionals who are working in the ministries at the federal and state level? Should it be the political appointees? Or is it even the private sector in Nigeria?
Okay, so fair and square, the blame should lie with the government. All right. And I say this with a lot of well, I mean, the thing is this, right? All of these assets that you've mentioned, all of these tourist sites, monuments, name them, they are under the control of the federal government. A good number of them are under the control of the state government. So it is the government's responsibility to ensure that these things are properly maintained. They are made to be the best that they can be. But unfortunately, Nigeria is a country that hasn't taken tourism. I established this point earlier on. Nigeria is one of the countries that has not taken a lot of interest in the value that tourism brings to a country. That explains why you saw the old Oyo National Park signboard, and it's still the same thing that has been there from who knows for the past 20, 30 years. I personally have visited the old Oyo National Park twice. When you get to that environment, you will love what you feel. You will appreciate what nature has gifted Nigeria. But when you look at the everyday management of that place, you will feel very sad because you will know that a lot more could be done with it. But again, I haven't said that. Just December last year, myself and two colleagues of mine, we did an 8-day road trip in
Yeah, I
some
follow
states.
that on
You
Facebook.
followed that, right? Yes. In some states in the country. We also eventually, Lagos, Oyo, Osun, Ondo, Kogi State, Kwara State, and then Abuja. Everything peaked in Abuja. While we were in Abuja, we had a meeting with the Conservator General of the National Park Service. The National Park Service is the government agency in charge of managing the national parks in the country. Altogether, we have 7 national parks. It was at that meeting that we got to know for the first time that the federal government has approved the addition of 10 new national parks to the existing 7,
Wow.
which means that officially Nigeria now has 17 national parks. Another good news that we got to know was that the government has now woken up to the fact that it can't really 100% manage these natural parks effectively. So It is experimenting with a public-private partnership arrangement with the private sector to test run the possibility of letting the private sector take charge of three of these national parks for starters in partnership with the government to now say, okay, you know what? You guys are the experts. You are the knowledgeable ones. Take it over. Run it with international best practices. I'm hoping that that will sail through. I don't think the agreements have been signed completely yet, but I hope that they can do it on time so that people who have the competence and the know-how can take charge of our national parks and make them what it is that makes the international community wants to visit national parks and wildlife sanctuaries in Eastern Africa, for example. Nigeria has so many wildlife. You know, we have exceptional flora and fauna. What we lack is the right messaging to the right community in Nigeria, in Africa, and across the world. So that was a major step forward in December, and I'm hoping that they will finalize with it, and then let's see a transformation in how our national parks, are managed. I personally am so keen on promoting the national parks. As a matter of fact, if not for the pandemic, our plan for 2020 was to visit at least three national parks and, in our fashion, promote them to Nigerians so that they can actually see that, you know what, this country has national parks. You may not know, but here they are, and we are actually visiting and showing them to you so that at your next available, when next you're on vacation, on holiday, and you have a free 2, 3, 4, 5 days, you can also decide to pack a bag and just visit. That is the whole essence of what I do. I travel to these places because I know that Nigerians may not really know that they exist, and I use social media to showcase them.
Yeah, and thank you for the great work you're doing there because we all always see those things on the social media. Now, one thing I was going to say, I remember when I was doing my undergraduate days in Nigeria, and this was part of the reason why I even joined the student union government to be part of their supporter and something because you travel about, and based on that, I was able to even get to some places. I'll be like, wow. And one question I always ask people is that Nigeria has 36 states.
Hmm.
If we look at Ghana, I think Ghana has 16 regions with 260 local authorities. Nigeria has 774 local
Local
authorities.
governments. Yeah.
And I ask people, okay, let's base it on the regions and let's base it on the states. I'm from Nigeria. Out of the 36 states, I have been to at least 21.
Okay.
And I've said
That's fantastic.
and that includes Abuja. And I've said
Okay.
I'm still going to visit the remaining 15, whatever happens. So the question is, how do we promote people? I mean, how do we promote this? I know, yes, this insecurity is there now, but how do we get to promote, our own heritage, our own culture and art to our own people? You said something earlier. You said it was when you had that meeting with the representative of the federal government, you got to know that three more national parks have been,
No, 10 more.
oh, 10
Okay,
more,
10 have been added to the existing seven,
seven.
but three from the existing seven are going to be privatized,
Okay.
semi-privatized.
All right. So 10 more, then three will be privatized. Now, I don't know. We didn't see this news
Hmm.
on here. And because
That's another thing.
I would have expected a big time promo for this.
Exactly. You're right. That's one of the issues.
Yeah.
A
So
lack of understanding about what should be done.
aha. So how do we promote this? Yes, people like us, we are self motivated. We want to know our country. We want to know things. We want to see our culture. We want to see that heritage everywhere. I want to visit places. Even here in Scotland, I do tell my family, you know what? Before you go for any international holiday,
Hmm.
you need to know Scotland first. Know Scotland. Know everywhere here, and
Hmm.
you can start going out.
Going
How
out.
can we promote that in Nigeria or even in the West African sub-region?
Okay, thanks for that question. There's a lot of there's so many things tumbling in my mind that I want to say. So I hope I'm able to put them all out.
Yeah.
Now, it's commendable that you personally has visited 21 states in the country. I have been to 31 or 32 at the last count, and I'm hoping that I'm going to do what the 5 or 6 that is remaining. There are so many other young Nigerians who have actually seen the 36 states. And that brings me to a point. Something is happening in the Nigerian space right now. An army of young Nigerians in their 20s and in their 30s are traveling massively around the country. They are promoting Destination Nigeria in a way that it has not been promoted before now. And I'm talking about a trend that kicked off, like, say, 5 years ago, all thanks to social media. So young Nigerian graduates, maybe freshly out of the tertiary institutions, they're brimming with a lot of energy, with a lot of ideas. They're at home, there's no job, and they get an opportunity to just, travel here and travel there. And by instinct, you know, they're sharing it on social media, okay? And based on that share on social media, friends and followers are actually interested in seeing these destinations, and a movement, in a sense, has taken off. A movement of young people, celebrating and showcasing Nigerian destinations to Nigerians, to Africans, and to the rest of the world. I can't see you right now, but I hope.
Don't worry, I can hear you. Don't worry, just go on.
Okay, so a movement of young Nigerians is already in force, doing exactly what you are saying. How can it be done? They are promoting different parts of Nigeria, and you need to just be on Instagram to be able to get a sense of what is going on. That is on that. Those are private initiatives, and it also helps to help us showcase this country. I love it when I see it. Okay, your question was how. I mean, how do we do? I don't know. I mean, is it how
how do we
do we
promote?
promote? So they are doing it in their own little way. And believe me, it's commonly said that a single drop of water makes an ocean and something. All of that is going to add up in the long run. And then, just like what happened with Nollywood, with the Nigerian film industry, it began with just one or two, films that somebody just sat, a couple of people sat down and shot. And 20 plus years later, Nollywood has become a global force. The same with the music industry in Nigeria, which is called Afropop or something, Niger, whatever. It also began sometime in 1999 when a couple of another group came, and 20 plus years down the line, Nigerian music has become a global phenomenon. And I keep on saying that the same thing will happen to Nigeria's tourism. A lot of organic things are taking place. All right, we can see because we're in the industry. If you're not in the industry, you may not really observe it, but we can see something emerging, and we're hoping that the government will also see what is going on and try to plug in. These are the guys that the government should be actually cutting right now. They are the ones there should be a budget for the young people traveling. Maybe, I mean, let's take it a little bit beyond that. There is that there are groups of tour operators who, in spite of everything, continue to promote Destination Nigeria. I'm also a tour operator, even though I'm a travel journalist. What we do is we design tours around different parts of the country, and we use social media, we use paid promotions, we use every means available to us to promote it. You will actually have seen so many of that during public holidays, during weekends. There's some. I mean, the staycation idea is already booming in Nigeria. Yes, you mentioned it. Insecurity still makes a few people not to buy into those stores, but a good number of people are buying into those stores. And eventually, when the government is able to tackle the insecurity and the banditry issue, I think things are going to kick off nicely. Thankfully, COVID-19, is easing out a little bit because of the availability of the vaccine. So we are thinking that in the next couple of maybe 8 weeks or so, we will be able to move around better. Many people will have been vaccinated. We will be able to travel and do a lot more trips around the country. So gradually like that, Nigerian tourism will gain a foothold, and more people will want to actually come into the country to appreciate, what we have. Let me also mention this. I didn't complete my story about the December trip. We also had a meeting with the Director General of the National Commission for Museums and Monuments. That is the agency of government in charge of our museums, our national monuments, and heritage sites generally. There are 44 museums in the country currently. And um, how many monuments now? I really can't put a finger on it. But the thing is, the good news again is just as the Conservator General of the National Park Service told us that the government is announcing 10 new additional national parks, the DG of the National Commission for Museums and Monuments told us that the government is finalizing plans to add 100 more monuments to what is already existing. You get it? We were overjoyed. We were like, this is beautiful. You know, they haven't been able to, I mean, because it's still not finalized yet, they couldn't really give us the exact number, the list, but it is 100. So imagine adding 100 monuments to what we currently have at the moment. Maybe we have about 60 national monuments. Added 100, that is 160. It tells you that Nigeria has so much to sell to the world. It has so much to sell to Nigerians themselves and to Africans. We just need to put a couple of things in place, and then we'll be flying. We will be ahead of the pack when it comes to African tourism. I'm hoping that that day will come.
Oh well, we all hope that will happen. We all hope that will happen. I was going to when you mentioned the Heritage Park earlier. I think we have just one UNESCO listed heritage park now in Nigeria, if I'm correct.
We have two.
Oh, is it true?
Yeah, we have, there's one called the Sukur.
Yeah,
Sukur,
no.
yeah, and then there is the Oshun Grove.
Oh, right. I
The
didn't know.
Oshun Grove is the second
Okay,
in Oshun State.
date. Yeah, because I've been to the soccer one before. I think
Okay,
there
okay.
2000 and 2008.
And of course, there are still also a couple of other candidate sites that Nigeria has proposed
Oh,
to
good.
the UNESCO World Heritage Site. A country as big as Nigeria should actually have more than two.
Sure.
If we had about 10, it's not enough.
Hmm.
It's not too much, rather.
Okay. Now,
And we
I
have we have the sites that can actually qualify for that status.
well, one thing I always say is that if we have capable people who can play the international politics in
Yes, yeah,
organizations, we can get
yes.
things on.
And the beautiful thing is that, you know what, back in the 80s and in the 90s, Nigeria was very strong as an international player with diplomacy. We had the right crop of diplomats who knew how to play the game and who ensured that Nigeria was not found wanting in any respect. But
Hmm.
I really can't say the same for what is going on right now. I think we've lost it actually, and it's unfortunate because if we did have what we had in the 80s, in the 70s, and even shortly after independence, Nigeria should not be where it is. We shouldn't continue to be getting blacklisted all the time. We are checking too many negative records in the international community, and it's unfair to Nigerians who are not in government, who are affected by all of these international scenarios.
Right. I'm going to take us now into the opportunity side of things. I know you've told me about the destination Nigerian thing. I think I only saw it once before, but from what you've said now, I understand it more now. There was a time I was in Kenya, although I have so many friends from Kenya who we've gone to school together and things like that. But I was in Kenya in 2016. I went there for a conference, and what I discovered was that even high school students, maybe, freshly graduated high school students, were tour guides. They
Mm,
were guides,
nice,
some of them even have their own tour thing, like their
mm,
own tour organization. And
fantastic.
looking at that, in fact, Kenya was stating that, well, and when you look at most of their, SMEs, MSMEs, most of these organizations were founded by these guys, these wonderful, talented guys.
So you young people.
Now, that is East Africa. The same thing you mentioned about Namibia earlier coming into Nigeria as well. The same thing I've mentioned to you now, I've seen it happening in Zimbabwe as well. Now, I want to come back to West Africa because I think there's this thing about West Africa. Nigeria is there, Ghana is there, Gambia is there, Sierra Leone, Cameroon. And when we come out here in the diaspora, we always want to show ourselves out there. And the question is, we keep talking about unemployment. How can the tourism industry be tapped into by these young ones? How can we, is it going to be a mentorship? Is it going to be an apprenticeship we need to do to help those young ones to understand the kind of revenue and living they can create for themselves from this tourism industry we have there in Africa? How can we tap into that?
Excellent. Fantastic observation and question. Okay, so the thing is, where do I begin? The reference I made to the young people who are using Instagram, all right, to push different tours around the country actually fits into what you've said. They are seeing, so what we keep on seeing is that tour operating, the business of tour operating, is the lowest hanging fruit in the tourism value chain. It's easier to get into tourism by becoming a one-man, will I say, riot squad. Essentially, you register a business name. Some of them have registered a business name or they haven't. It's a very easy process. I think it costs there about maybe 10,000 naira. You have a business name, and with a business name, you can do business in Nigeria. So they may all have started as just, like an instinctive thing. They're just doing tours and throwing tours and getting their friends to go along with them. But essentially what they are doing is actually tour operating. They are curating tours. Some of them have been wise. They've started businesses, and they are riding on that. So what people like us who have been in the industry for a while and so many other people are doing is to also continue to propagate this idea that, you know what, one of the easiest ways to be self-employed is to become a tour operator or even a tour guide. So for me, I go out of my way when I visit a destination or even in Lagos here, I say, you know what, I tell the younger people, you need to be a subject matter expert. You need to know something. It's either you decide to settle in Lagos and know history and all the different stories you need to tell about Lagos, or you go to your state. I can't remember how many times I've told young people, where are you from? Where are you from? If I were you, I will go to my state, or I will go to a state where I know so much about. It could be that I grew up in Benue, for example, and I know so much about Benue. Then I will go there and design tour packages for that state, and then be the Lord and Master, chart a new course in that state. I know a young Nigerian who served in Taraba State. Taraba/Adamawa is where we have the Gashaka Gumti National Park, the biggest national park in the country. It is also where we have the highest point in Nigeria, the Chapal Wadi, on the Mambila Plateau. This young guy served in that state. He has settled there and is promoting destination, Mambila Plateau or destination Taraba. Okay, I know one or two other people who have done something similar. So that is the easiest way to be self-employed. You have to take initiative. You also have to listen to older people who have been in the game for a long time, who can then advise you to say, if you are interested in getting into tourism, why don't you identify where you think you can be strongest and then go and colonize that place? In Badagry, it's already happening. All the tour guides you will find in Badagry are, in a sense, self-taught, self-made. They must have, of course, understudied the older people. And then, so if you get to Badagry now, you don't need to look for a tour guide. You're just going to see them lining up, a dozen of them, 15 of them. And tourists, Badagry is a model for what different communities in Nigeria can become. Because without waiting for government, without waiting for handouts from anybody, these young people are taking initiative and they are guiding tourists around Badagry town. Badagry town is the town in Nigeria that receives the highest number of tourists. I stand to be corrected. But from the look of things, Badagry gets way more tourists than any community in this country. Okay? Also recently, I was involved in a project by Goge Africa. Goge Africa, if you know them, is a documentary program on TV.
I think we should hold on that because the next question I want to ask of you
on that. Okay, so the only reason why I'm mentioning that is because we traveled to Bonny and we've been able to train 20 young people from Bonny Island to become tour guides. The thing is this, right? Many, so this is the problem with Nigeria, or with so many people, with so many different communities and local government areas. The young people are sitting on assets, on amazing tourist assets, but they don't realize that that is what they have surrounding them.
Hmm.
So it's the same thing we found out in Bonny, that these guys are young. Some of them are working, some are not working, but they are surrounded by a fantastically beautiful island with all sorts of beautiful stories, history, culture, and all of that. But they didn't see it as tourism. They didn't even have an idea what tourism was until they went through this training. Now they are championing the tourism message, the tourism agenda, the tourism manifesto in Bonny Island. Believe me, if those 20 people keep at it and they succeed, they are going to have a ripple effect on towns and communities in the entire Niger Delta region, which comprises 6 states. That's a lot to happen. So if we could start from those sort of things, we can have organic effects on surrounding societies. And I'm just using Badagry and Bonny as example. I could
Yeah.
also go ahead and mention so many other towns
No,
who are trying
it's
to.
good. It's even good. So the part you mentioned there, because I was going to say, right, when I was growing up, the names I hear then about people promoting, the culture and tourism and everything will be Auntie Nick and Uncle Isaac Moses, Good
Mhm.
Africa. Now, um, one thing I've found, and the Bonnie thing you mentioned, because I know before the program I did some research and I saw that they did that training for people, for young people in Bonnie.
Yes.
And what I was going to ask is that I saw somewhere that you were involved, and it's good you also mentioned it.
Okay.
Question I was going to ask you is that, like, is this a one-off thing, or is this something planned for other places? And these guys that have been trained in Bonnie, how do we continue to encourage them? Because let's be sincere with ourselves, the youth of today, if whatever we are doing is not bringing up about the kind of vibes, the kind of money, and the kind of
You're
swag
right.
we want,
You're right.
just
You're
going
right.
to what are the plans there, especially for these guys that have been trained in Bonny, and then are we going to see the same again somewhere else in other parts of the country and even in the sub region?
So the thing is, the situation in Bonny is exceptional. It is a private sector initiative, and the sponsor of that project is in it for the long term. So it's not a one-off. They haven't done just a one-off. Okay, train these young people for us 2 weeks and then that's it. No, they actually have plans spelled out over a long period of time. So we are very sure that what is going on in Bonny will be sustainable in the long term. And we are quite excited that the young people are so excited by the new knowledge, by it's almost as if the scales are falling from their eyes and they can now see clearly. So the sponsoring company will do its own bit to ensure that they follow their plan. But at the same time, the 20 people who have been trained have also kind of there's been a spark in them that is making them to tackle this thing head on. So it is, in a sense, an experiment that we are watching and we believe will succeed. And that's why I said that if it happens that way, and I believe it will, other communities in the entire Niger Delta region will see a reason to copy that model. And if that happens, it means many younger people in the whole of the Niger Delta will stop thinking that oil and gas is the only source of revenue for their states, for their local governments, for their community. But they will begin to see the potentials that they have in earning a living for themselves by embracing tourism, culture, arts, and the heritage of their immediate environment. That is the one way that I see this going. And of course, when this happens in the Niger Delta, we have 5 other regions in the country. Every state is watching what is going on, and they are also trying to adopt successful agendas in different parts. I can see states seeing that, oh, this is happening in this other state. I like what they are doing. The governor will speak with his counterparts in that state, and they will have, a conversation, and they set plans in place to activate the same thing in this new state that is interested in what the other state is doing. So it's going to be a gradual process insofar as this is a private sector initiative. What the young people are doing in Lagos is self-driven. Eventually we're going to get a structure for it, and then we'll ride on that structure to bring everything to scale. Right now, we need to scale it up. It is just happening in pockets. We need to ensure that everything scales up and then it spreads around the country.
Good.
Because believe me, if we succeed, many people will not even have any business with saying that they are unemployed. Because right where they live, they can earn money
Exactly.
from from all the circumstances, the storylines and history and the backstory and the heritage of that society that they live in.
Yeah. Good. So I noticed that the Lagos State government have signed an agreement with Goodyear Africa for some entrepreneurial training, but that's not where I'm going now. I want you to actually tell us more about 9 degrees north. I'm sure
Oh
you've
my goodness.
I'm sure you'll be surprised. 9 degrees north.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you very much.
What's the motivation behind this?
Okay. Thank you. Where do I start from? Okay. So, for our audience, 9 Degrees North is my fifth travel book. The full title is 9 Degrees North Backpacking Stories Across Nigeria. And it was published as an ebook in December 2020,
Yeah,
just a
last year.
couple of months ago. So, what happened was during the pandemic, I was doing so many things. During the pandemic, I was just, you know what, I mean, we're just all at home. We can't travel, we can't do much. What can we do? And I also noticed that all over the world, different institutions were promoting virtual travel, virtual tours, where whatever we may be locked down at, you can actually go online and go and see inside a museum. You can actually go and see inside a gallery. You can travel to destinations, not physically, but virtually. So while thinking, among other things that I did, I felt, you know what, I could also initiate a similar thing and help Nigerians travel virtually, from the comfort of their homes. So what I did was to collect 25 stories that I've written from over the years. At the end of the day, I collected about maybe 40 stories, but we shortlisted the stories to 25, representing 19 states that I've visited in the course of my career. And those were the stories that made up 9 Degrees North. There
Hmm.
was also a different consideration. I wanted to use the opportunity to showcase and celebrate northern Nigeria because unfortunately, all that we've been hearing in the news from the northern part of the country has been banditry, earthmen killing farmers, kidnapping, school children being taken away from school violently, and stuff like that. It's a lot of negative news. But I've traveled widely in the northern part of the country. I'm always, always, always overwhelmed by the cultural identity, the cultural, you know, the general beauty of the North. And I've written about it. So why should someone like me, haven't seen a place that beautiful, not talk about it? So I
Hmm.
said, you know what, my accent on this particular book will be to celebrate Northern, and that partly is responsible for why I chose that title. It reflects that North, and I have, of all the 25 stories in that collection, I think 11 or 12 of that collection are stories from Northern Nigeria. And then the three other regions of the South, share the remaining 12, 13 stories amongst them. So essentially, what I tried to do was just say, Nigerians, you can travel, you can do armchair travel by buying my ebook and reading it. I wasn't just doing it just to sell. I was doing it because I thought Nigerians needed to see what these different parts of the country have in store. Even though we cannot travel physically, you can at least travel through the pages of a book and get a sense of what these other parts of the country are like through my eyes.
Good. So with that one, let's link into art and culture. How can we, because I know today we have different, art centers now in Lagos. I can talk about the one being promoted by our own Chief McLeod here from UK here, which is just next to Nikkei Art, and I can't remember that name now. Nikkei Art
Okay.
and
Nikkei
something.
Art Gallery.
Yeah, Nikkei Art Gallery, and there is the new one now opened by our own person here in Scotland,
Okay.
Chief Mrs. McLeod, which is just like next door to the
To
Nikkei
Nikkei
Art.
Art Gallery. Oh,
Yeah,
that must be new. I haven't heard about it.
yeah, it's new. It's only just launched this last month, I
Oh,
think.
fantastic. I should pay a visit. I didn't hear about it.
I'm sure she will be glad, and I know she's listening to us as we speak at the moment. So, what
Do you
else?
know? What's the name for this for the center or for the? Do you
Uh,
know?
well, I can only
Okay,
say,
you can always confirm.
yeah, I can
I'm
always.
interested in
I'll just say
in
this. Chief McLeod, if you're listening, please just help send the name of your art center there. Please, if you're listening, just help send it to me on WhatsApp and I'll be able to read it out.
excellent.
So, the question I was going to ask is that how can we bring this partnership around tourism, art, and culture? Before you answer, I know the is it the federal government now? I'm trying to remember if it's the federal government or the Lagos state government that have yeah, it's the Lagos state government under Governor Akinwumi Ambode that brought together those two, making them read as the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture. How can we promote this partnership to actually help the tourism and art and culture industries in Nigeria?
Okay, well, the connection has already been made because every time Nigeria has had to talk about tourism, it has always gone with arts and culture. We've never had a standalone either Ministry of Tourism. It has always gone with something. In some states, you will have Ministry of Tourism and Hospitality. In some states, you'll have Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, or Tourism and Culture. There has always been an element of arts and culture, added to our tourism agendas. Okay, so that it has always been the case. So, yeah, like you mentioned, during the governorship of Governor Fashola, it was tourism and intergovernmental relations, if I'm not mistaken. And then, like you said, the governor that came afterwards now modified it because we can't really do tourism without the arts and culture bit anyway. So that is already happening. And you mentioned an art center by Chief McLeod, and I'm actually excited about it. The interesting thing is that in the last 2, 3 weeks, there have been a couple of art centers too that opened in Lagos, okay, which excited me a lot. One of them opened over the Easter holidays on Easter Monday.
Okay.
Very, very fantastic. It's called the Afro Brazilian Cultural Center. And it is basically a center that hopes to propagate the historical connection between Nigeria and Brazil, especially the Yorubas of the Southwest and Brazil. It's all connected to the east, to the story of the slave trade.
Yeah.
So during the slave trade, the centuries of the slave trade, many, many, many Africans of Yoruba origin were taken away to South America. Some years later, there was a revolt, and some of the people said they wanted to return to Africa. Essentially, the government of the day at that time said, okay, well, fine, fine. So many of them were repatriated or they were shipped back to the continent of Africa, to West Africa. Many of them knew where they originated from or where their parents came from. So many returned to Lagos, some to the other parts of the West African coast.
Yeah.
So they were, it is the Afro-Brazilians and Afro-Cubans, Afro-Jamaicans that settled in a part of Lagos that is now called Popo Aguda,
Yes.
and they began to, multiply. And, so now the descendants of those Afro-Brazilians are, they have now become part of Lagos heritage and Lagos population. So what these individuals did is to open a museum and a center in memory of that, historical antecedent in Nigeria. And it's just to forge more ties. Because come to think about it, I honestly don't know why nobody thought about initiating a stronger relationship, tourism-wise, between Nigeria and Cuba, Nigeria and Brazil, Nigeria and Japan, basically Nigeria and the South American countries, because a large number of our people were taken there. And interestingly, they still practice some African traditional religion. The consul general of Brazil was at the opening, okay, which to me is a sign that Brazil is going to be very much involved in the growth and the management. I mean, in ensuring that Brazilians get to know about that, and Lagosians also get to know the Afro-Brazilian story in Lagos. So, and I could go on and on about other art specific centers that have opened in Lagos in the past couple of years. Lagos is a center for the arts, just as it is a center for business, for commerce, for whatever. It's also as much a center for arts and leisure. But many people don't see Lagos as a leisure city. It is leisure. There is leisure to be had in Lagos, even in the midst of all the hustle and bustle. There is so much leisure activity that anybody in Lagos can enjoy, or any visitor to Lagos can actually enjoy. And again, Governor Ambode, you mentioned him. You can remember that it was during his time that Lagos celebrated its 50th anniversary. And to commemorate that particular anniversary, the state government commissioned different studios, different galleries, different artists to create 50 public artworks, which were installed in different parts of the city. So if you go around Lagos, you still see some of those artworks today, standing, in a sense, wherever it is. Some of them have been moved from their original location. But the thing is, that was a government that understood that art was a part and parcel of Lagos. And it went all the way. It even built about 5, performance centers in the 5 different regions of the state. So Lagos has always been, connected to art and culture, and same for Nigeria.
Good. Now, the
I'm
next
sorry,
question.
that was a long answer. It's
No problem.
there's just so much to say.
As long as it's giving us the information and education we need from it. The next question I was going to ask is this: how can we inculcate tourism into our educational curriculum in Nigeria?
Yeah, lovely question. It's one of the things that people have actually told me. Every time they see what I do and they get a sense of what my books are about, it's not once or twice, it's several times people have said, Pelu, all that you are doing, all the things that you've documented are actually supposed to be collected and be made to be part of the school curriculum. And I agree with them. So, because the thing is, the older generation may not really be so in tune with appreciating domestic tourism and our arts and culture and history. But we have a responsibility to catch the younger generation when they are young. The catch them young kind of thing. We should introduce tourism, culture, arts, and heritage studies from as early as primary school, elementary school. Because
Yes.
come to think of it, when we were younger, we were taught social studies. We were taught those kind of things. I think it can also be turned, maybe not social studies this time around, but it can be specific to say, we just want our kids to learn more about our history, about our heritage, about our art and our culture. Introduce that into the curriculum from the elementary school, and then let it go into the secondary school. So even if our children spend the first 17 years of their lives learning a chunk of Nigerian history and heritage, it will go a long way in shaping what the future of Nigeria will be.
Okay.
But again, for people like us to be able to say you want to pitch your works to be considered in the curriculum, I think it's a long winding process, and I'm not sure. It's something I plan to try.
Okay.
I don't want to rule it out completely because I know I have a lot of information that is useful to the younger Nigerians.
Good.
And
I
it will
think
be a good thing if they can have access to it while they are in school.
good. What I would say is that we will try from the Nigerian Pride to see if we can even talk to the government of Lagos State and see how they can get that into the curriculum. Because I think it's like Lagos State always comes up with these things, and then others will follow. Because it's quite
The-
important. I have a 6 year old who is in primary two here, and
okay.
she's being taught how to actually identify the different cities and the different landmarks and attraction centers
Hmm.
across Scotland. And I was like,
Okay, fine.
nobody taught me this
This is
when
when
I
you're at
was
that age.
at that age. The only
Can you
thing I
see
can,
can you see the difference?
yeah,
Already at that age, they're already,
yeah. And she
showing
was
the children, they are telling them what they need to know about their country. So you
exactly
have that as part of your foundational education. And then
yeah.
all you need to do is now build on it.
That's exactly the point I'm trying to make. And then I know it's something we'd have to look at. I know our time is very fast spent. Um, Someone is quoting here: tourism involves free movement, but with the current insecurity in nearly everywhere in Nigeria, how can we take a proper advantage of this? Well, I think
Mm-mm. That is the thing.
what
That is the major headache that we have in the country. Many Nigerians want to travel, but they are held back by the fear of insecurity, of kidnapping, of banditry, and I understand it. I really can't say I can't tell anybody to get on the road. It's the same way I would get on the road, But I also want Nigerians to understand the fact that banditry and kidnapping has not taken over the entire country. It is happening in some places, and so long as you can identify those places and avoid them, I think we can actually travel safely until such a time when the government is able to put all of those things in check. There are still a couple of states we can travel to in Nigeria without any risk of being kidnapped or coming to any harm.
good. So you hear it there. The listener there, you can hear that comment straight live and direct there. The other thing I would say is that I think tourism is something we should tap into, even in solving the insecurity we have in the country. Because if people in all those insecure places are being shown the opportunities available to them in tourism, the great heritage they have, I think they will be able to understand why they have to work with the government to drive away insecurity and promote their
Exactly.
livelihood.
You're
Well,
right.
um, on that note, I'm going to say a big thank you to you for your time with us today. It's been quite an educative one. And I promise we will bring you back next month if you can, when we get the time you're free enough to come again, because I know you're very busy. Because I think it's quite important for us to look really into this tourism. And I know you have vastly experienced even with African tourism, not only Nigeria. And I think it would be proper to come back again to talk even about the sub-region itself at large and
Mm.
see
It
and
will be
see.
my pleasure to return and be your guest.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, viewers out there, listeners out there, you've heard it all. I know not completely all, but we've heard it to an
Mm.
extent today. And you could hear that he has said he will be more than happy to come back again. So, tourism in Africa. We focused a bit on the West African sub-region, Nigeria in particular today. Maybe next time when we are having um, our guest again on the program, we may have some other people also from other parts of the continent. And it should be a good thing to listen to all of them and see how we can drive African tourism
Mm.
to the world.
Exactly.
So, next week, we will be exploring taxation. How many businesses have been started by members of the ethnic minority in Scotland, yet we see the launching. 5 years later, we don't see these companies anymore. When you talk to those who established them, they'll tell you, I don't understand anything about these taxes. I got into this problem. So next week, we will be talking about the importance of understanding tax accounting for your business, how you need to do about it, the advice you need, everything. That's what we'll be focusing on next week. And the big one, you all know May 6th is the election date here in Scotland for the parliamentary election of Holyrood. For the first time of its kind, it has never happened anywhere in the UK. And for the first time, we will be having an election debate that will only be centering amongst ethnic minority candidates from all the parties. We've sent invitations out to all the parties already. We have four parties. Four parties have already confirmed they are attending. Those four parties, I can mention them straight away. We have the Conservative, Scottish Conservative have confirmed their attendance for it. We've also heard from Scottish Liberal Democratic Party. We've also heard from the Scottish Greens, and we've heard from the Scottish National Party. So we're waiting for the Scottish Labour, the Alba Party, to confirm. But at the moment, we have those four. And the date for that will be the 29th of April. So keep that date. If today is the 18th, is the 8th of April, you have just 21 days, 3 weeks time to prepare for that debate. It will be live here on the Nigerian Pride through Diaspora Radio International. Be part of history. We will be sending out information. If you want to be part of the guests of the audiences, send us messages through our Facebook, through our WhatsApp number. The WhatsApp number 077 147 80421. We will be part of this history together. Like I've always said to you all, you have to be involved to get included. If you don't get involved, nobody at all will include you. On that note, I remain myself, Lion Olushokumbi. Keep safe. Let's open back gradually. Let's work with the government to safely open up back. I will be going to my barber soon because the salons are open now. So next week, I'll see you again. Good evening.